car behind me is my chili bowl midget, the one that I want the chili bowl with. And what's interesting about that is it's actually the car where the iRacing stand, and it's going to be available for all the iRacing members out there.
Good evening, Hello and welcome to V8 Online's coverage of the Oceanic Sprint Championship. Tonight we head to Mount Panorama, Bathurst for round 11 of this awesome championship, and really looking forward to seeing how the GT3 cars go around the iconic Mount Panorama circuit. Jay Kennedy and tonight Bo Albert alongside me. Bo, it's going to be a very, very interesting night. Times are close, field is tight, and the field is huge.
The field is huge. Currently 36 cars having a time registered on the board for this 30-minute qualifying session, which we're now 21 minutes into. And speaking of qualifying times, at the moment, the top 10 all within a second. And if you want to go within 2 seconds, it spreads all the way back down currently to 24th position. This field is so close, and at a track this size and such a challenge as well, I think we're in for a very good race here with a pit stop included as well.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing how it all plays out. At the moment, Josh Anderson leading the way. He's got 2 tenths on the rest of the field at the moment, but anything can, does, and will happen, especially at Bathurst. And we've seen qualifying hasn't necessarily brought on race wins, and we know the draft will keep the field very, very close. So keeping it clean, keeping it out of trouble, and even saving fuel tonight is going to be a big advantage. If you are even second or third car along, you're probably going to find yourself in a better spot at pit stop time.
Yeah, there's so many ways we've seen drivers go about this series. You've seen fuel mileage races, you've seen just go pure pace strategies, and when we come to the track like Mount Panorama, where the walls are so close and there's challenges around every corner, and overtakes, there's opportunities around here for sure, but they are limited and you do have to position your car perfectly. Qualifying right now, sure, everyone wants to be that guy on pole position, the king of the mountain for the qualifying session, but it doesn't determine who will win this race tonight. And we've seen so many races in this series so far where guys have sprung out of nowhere and put in a fantastic performance, and it really is anyone's game coming into this 45-minute race.
Yep, Josh Anderson about to complete another flying lap, and I think this one might be quicker. It is, so he's just gone a little bit quicker by about 2/100ths of a second. But saying we've got every make of GT3 out there tonight. So the Mercedes first, second, third. Our first place Audi, Blake Neck in 4th position. We've got 2 Audis inside the top 10 and 3 inside the top 20. Our top placed McLaren is Matt Morris. He's just come to grief at Griffin's Bend. And then our top placed Ferrari, Simon Mazzomo, currently in the pits, but 28th position. And we have a Ford GT out there as well with Mitchell Bales at the wheel. So all 6 of the brands of cars out on track tonight, which is really, really good to see.
Yeah, it is. It means we'll get a really good idea of what car is going to be the king of the mountain for this balanced performance we do currently have. And speaking of balanced performance, it can't be too bad if we do have every single car out there. So we'll see plenty of different fuel strategies from different cars, tyre lives from different cars. It's fantastic to see, and it'd be something that, if you are in this series, sometimes you can pick a car that might be a bit left field to what the majority run, but sometimes you can actually find yourself with an advantage.
And the drivers that can sort of feel comfortable swapping and picking and choosing have got a real advantage in this series, but we haven't really seen too many guys step away from their main car. We've seen the Ferrari guys pretty much stick with the Ferraris all season. We've seen the Mercedes guys stick with the Mercs all season. And as we expect to, the Mercedes will be strong. As I've just seen, Anthony Winkleman has gone to the top of the timesheets.
Yeah, and only just very close between those two, just over 100th of a second. And with Joshua Anderson currently on a lap right now, we could see him potentially try and steal that top spot away once more. So just keep an eye on Anderson as he flies through this final corner. Hopefully he's not an outlap. I do get that wrong quite a few times. And indeed, he's just about to start up for one more lap. So Anthony Winkleman, still with 4.5 minutes left on the clock, will have another crack at beating Winkleman's time. Sorry, that was Josh Anderson starting his lap. But he's not alone, as like we said before, the top bunch of cars now out to the top 11 with Martin Silvassi for Mad Cow Racing getting a time within a second pole position. This field is so close, and in the dying laps when everyone's going for hero laps and just putting it all to the maximum and throwing caution to the wind away, we could see anyone topping the timesheets.
And Winkleman, of course, in a championship fight with Ross Rizzo, 20 points separating first and first. They're the only 2 drivers with a chance of winning this championship. They are the only two with a mathematical chance. Even if Reina wins both of the next two races, this one and Suzuka next week, he still cannot win the championship. But Winkelmann needs to basically win every race now, these next two races, to secure the championship, because he has to rely on a couple of inconsistent performances from Ross Rizzo, which we know definitely not easy for that to happen, because Rizzo has been so consistent throughout this championship.
Yeah, Rizzo has done a fantastic job, and he is a driver that drives a lot of different cars. He has done a few rounds in the Mercedes, he's done rounds in the Ferrari as well, and he's also done a lot of work in the V8 supercar, so the GTs aren't necessarily his one and only thing that he does drive, but when he does, he is fantastically consistent, constantly banging in top performances, and that's the reason why he is about to put himself with more than a single hand on this championship trophy.
We've got Cameron Dance on screen. We've just seen Anderson back out of a lap, so he's going to queue up for one more crack right at the end. But Cameron Dance, a second placed Audi with Blake Neck, the top running Audi. But Cam was umming and ahhing about whether to race tonight and decided to jump in, and his testing hasn't been overly successful, with a couple of rollovers at the top of the hill. Hopefully he can put in some good lap times, and he's very, very consistent. So we'll see whether he and Blake can move these Audis up towards the front.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic to see. I will admit I'm a little bit biased towards the Audis. I think they're a brilliant car. They sound fantastic, but they are very, very tough to drive. And if you hit a curb in the wrong way, you unsettle them over a bump just a little bit, they do bite very, very hard. And it is one reason why a lot of guys do stay away from this car. They're very quick when you get them perfect, but they're constantly on a knife edge. So for Cam Dance, Blake Neck, and all the other Audis in this field, it's going to be a case of survival sometimes more than just pure lap times.
It's a tough car to absolutely master, so we'll see if both Cam and Blake can master, as well as Griffin Gardner as well. Currently in 15th position, all in Audi's top 15 now, 1.2 seconds, and there's that ragged edge we were just talking about. It's Dance into the fence, and that's Anderson as well, is it? No.
It's one of the pure sim racing cars.
It's Dylan Shepherd.
Well, the mountain bites already, and we're not even on lap one.
It's going to be one of those races when we get to race time. We've got a minute and a half left on the clock. So this is going to be Anderson's last chance to steal pole away from Winkelmann. Winkelmann, I don't think we'll get another lap in, will he? No, he's just coming out of the pits now. So this is it for Anderson. One chance.
Yep, and there's not many more tracks on the iRacing server, but it's quite as daunting to do one single lap going for pole position on maximum attack. The walls are close, the commitment is high. As you can see, they're launching over the curb there across the top of the hill as we're now about to plummet downhill. And at this point, you cannot see anything at all, and he's just going to throw the Mercedes down there. And so far, he is not lacking in commitment.
He's absolutely leaving it all on the track if he's going to steal this time away. He needs to be on the ragged edge. Leave nothing out there, leave nothing to chance, and push as hard as he can. Not long left to go in qualifying, not long left to go on this lap. There's only 20 seconds left on the clock, so this is pretty much the end of the session.
Through the chase now, up to 275 kilometers an hour, a very scary speed, and you have to wipe all that speed off down to 120 kilometers an hour for that braking zone for the chase. A brilliant exit out of there, so for Josh Anderson, he is going to finish this lap. There is something he can see, there is an improvement on his Motec Delta time. He rounds the final corner. Can Josh Anderson steal pole away from Anthony Winkelmann? Yes, he can.
Good lap.
A 2-minute .1, fantastic.
Well done to Anderson for a very, very good end to the session. We go to Martin Silvassi. And Silvassi and Winkelmann both running new liveries now. Mad Cow Racing drivers, unable to update the broadcast overlays, but both attempting to get their pro licenses with Mad Cow, and good to see them out there with those guys. Looks like Dan King might be the last driver on a flying lap. And that lap is ruined because he's just run wide. Robert Northway also on a lap.
Run wide? That's a shunt for Dan King, but he now does have the race to look forward to. It is going to be 45 minutes here at Bathurst. There will be a pit stop to do as well, so this should be an interesting one when the lights do go out.
On board with Robert Northway to complete his final attempt. Currently in 18th position. Doesn't need too much time to get himself into the magic top 15 as well. So if you can find around about 1.5 tenths, that'll jump him about 4 spots. So not a huge amount for him to gain.
This field is so close that any improvement at all will put him up a bunch of spots. So looking good at the moment for Robert Northway. He uses a lot of curb and carrying a lot of corner speed as well. That was very quick from Northway, and he does pull it up, gets it all done perfectly. So now into the final corner for the Mercedes driver, 0.46 on the car. But we'll see what he can do as he crosses the start-finish line to grab his final time, and it was indeed invalidated. So that's a shame for Robert. But starting from 18th, anything can happen.
We might take this opportunity to run through the starting grid. Josh Anderson will start this one on pole. Beside him on the front, Anthony Winkleman, then Ross Rizzo in third. So our 2 championship contenders, second and third in this one at the start. We'll see where they finish with Blake Neck in 4th. Thomas McMillan will start in 5th. Brad Watson in 6th. Mark Rayner 7th. Scott Kozlowski in 8th. Justin Strickland 9th. And Cameron Dance rounds out the top 10.
Just behind the top 10 is going to be Martin Silvassi for Mad Cow Racing with Phoenix Sim Sports. Jordan McDonnell just behind in P number 12. Dylan Shepherd for Positive Sim Racing will be P13. And he has TJ Brown for company on the 7th row of the grid, with Griffin Gardner completing the top 15. Corey Ott comes home in 16th in qualifying, and he holds off a very close bunch of cars, including Jeremy Franklin, Robert Northway, Sean Thompson, and Matt Morris.
21st will be Dan King with Philip Morton alongside, then Philip Stoneman and Aaron Farmer on the 12th row of the grid. Mark Simon and David Jellings next, with Brent Tucker, Simon Mazzomo, JP Courier and Nina Natal rounding out this massive field top 30. Still got more to go.
We sure do, and that is David Coleman going from P31. So he'll probably be looking at around the final corner. So it might be a tough start for him on this rolling start. Mitchell Bayliss will be in P32 in the 4GT, the only one on the grid. And just behind him here, Steve Carmichael, Jeffrey Price, Edward Morgan, Phil Gadd, and Tom Kleeman, rounding out 37 cars for this huge race. 45 minutes. This is going to be mega.
Yeah, massive field. Bathurst always turns on a very, very good show. We love this track, and it shows because every time we have a race at Bathurst, the field numbers absolutely grow, and it's been a very, very interesting championship. Only 2 weeks left in this one. Looking forward to seeing how it plays out between Rizzo and Winkleman for this championship. Not long to go before we will crown the first Oceanic Sprint Championship champion. It's going to be a very, very interesting race. This race could change the entire complexion of the championship. If something happens to either Rizzo or Winkleman, that could end the championship. So we need to keep a very close eye on those two. Ensure that they get through. If one of those two don't, it could be decided tonight.
Yep, it very well could. It comes down to this, one of the most challenging circuits they will come to all season, and the championship potentially on the line. Ross Rizzo with a fantastic opportunity to wrap this one up and put it out of reach from anyone else, but just in front of him are 2 of the quickest guys in GT3 cars in Australia. So he's got a mountain to climb if he wants to take this championship home in glory.
Only a couple of drivers left to take the grid, and then we will get this one underway with most of the field driving Mercedes. It's good to see a couple of Audis inside that top 10. Nice little mix to see a couple of other manufacturers inside the top 10. But away we go. Anderson and Winkleman pull away to start this race. We know we will have a pit stop purely for fuel. And we'll see if anyone is able to play a bit of a smart strategy and save a bit of fuel, because that big draft down the 2 huge long straights, Mountain Straight, Conrod Straight, will mean there is massive draft opportunities. Here we go.
We've already got dramas for Ross Rizzo. He's not being able to get onto his proper grid slot, and he's got big internet issues right now. This could be the championship before the green flag has even fallen yet. He's trying to get back to his grid slot now, but we're rounding the final corner. This is going to be close for Ross Rizzo if he can do it, but the field's already gone. Green flag in the air. 45 minutes at Bathurst is underway.
Yeah, this is going to be very, very tough for Ross Rizzo. He's possibly going to have some drivers getting black flags as well, so hopefully we don't see too many issues with that. But we are underway as a car around at...
Oh, big crash in the background. We even have a car over down the escape road. I'm trying to get some numbers for you guys.
That's Matt Morris and Jeremy Franklin.
Oh, so terrible for those guys. And turn 1 is very tight and it can cause incidents. And unfortunately for those guys, right off the bat involved in something. Oh, and there's more around. Positive Sim Racing car around at the second corner. And he's collected a few Mercedes as well, including Coriot.
That was teammates come together in the first part of the crash. We'll stay with the Cup Price Racing replay and pick up this second part. Dylan Shepherd is the one that's ended up involved, or the main one involved in this secondary crash. Contact between he and Silvassi. Looks like most of the field got past. We go back live to the front. Josh Anderson leads from Anthony Winkleman and Blake Neck. Ross Rizzo has slotted himself into 13th, but we're going to have to wait and see if there's any penalties to come from the starting infringement, mainly from Ross Rizzo with his internet issues.
Yeah, his car is bouncing around a little bit, and so many times I've thought he's gone into the wall, but he has actually been perfectly fine. So for other drivers, that's going to be distracting for Rizzo as well. So even if he is in clean air right now, it might not be over for Ross Rizzo's issues, and this is worst case possible for him, as two of the fastest guys and title contenders for him are streaking away ahead of the entire field right now.
Good battle for third and fourth at the moment. Blake Neck in that Audi. As we said, it's a tough car to drive, but he's doing a great job at the moment. Got Thomas McMillan right behind, applying a lot of pressure at the moment.
Yep, and unfortunately for Blake Neck, one of Thomas McMillan's favourite sayings is to send it. So anything is possible when Thomas McMillan is behind you, but with the speed of that Mercedes that it has in a straight line and going uphill, it is much faster than the Audi, and you can see they're already having a look behind the Audi. So McMillan can hold it across the top of the mountain where the Audi is so strong. As he gets very close to the wall there, he does have a good opportunity down Conrad.
Sean Thompson coming into the pits as well with a fair bit of damage to the front of his car, so he's been involved in some sort of issue. It's an unfortunate night for the Proforce Racing guys. Ross Rizzo having internet issues, Matt Morris and Jeremy Franklin getting involved in an accident, and Sean Thompson also having some sort of issue because of the front end damage of that car. 4 of their cars all involved in issues on lap 1.
Yeah, Sean Thompson was the car involved in that bit of an issue at turn number 2. I got the wrong car, but that was in fact Sean Thompson that was unfortunately stuck, but going into the side of Dylan Shepherd's Positive Sim Racing car. So that's why he has so much front end damage. But that's unfortunate for the Proforce Racing guys. Like you said, not the start they would have wanted. But going back to this battle for 3rd and 4th right now, as Thomas McMillan is going to make it side by side heading towards the chase.
Will he be able to send it? I don't think he's going to be close enough up there this time. Backs out of it. Probably a good move to get out of it. Save some fuel now. There's a fair bit of time left in this race and lots of opportunities to save fuel. Can save a second of fuel on this first stint. That will be major game changer come the second half of this race, or second portion of this race. We've seen in this championship so far that most drivers will run as long as possible and pit at the last possible moment with about 10 minutes or so to go. So you can save fuel for the first 30-35 minutes. You'll leave yourself in a great position come the end of this race.
Yeah, there's so many ways around Bathurst you can fuel save as well. So that is one strategy that would definitely move you forward if that's what you're trying to do. As there's also a battle happening at the moment for 9th and 10th. As those guys, Scott Zaslowski and... Oh, there's contact there! And he's gone around. That was the 30 car of Jordan McDonnell and is now facing the wrong way. And almost an awkward rejoin there. This is not the place you want to be trying to spin the car around. and he's going to have to wait for the entire field to go by.
It's going to get a quick cut price racing replay. There's only minor contact as well. It wasn't a huge bump between McDonnell and Kozlowski, so McDonnell's rejoined way back in 31st position. Kozlowski's continuing on in 4th, but go back to 3rd and 4th. Sorry, Kozlowski in 9th. As we go back to 3rd and 4th, with Blakeneck weaving down Conrod Straight to try and break this draft from Thomas McMillan and stick with the draft of Anthony Winkleman.
Yeah, the Audi is a bit asthmatic when it comes to straight lines, and you can see that Blakeneck doing anything he can to get a bit more straight line performance out of the Audi Sport R8, because those Mercedes are so quick in a straight line speed. So if you do get a slightly better run, you are so compromised in that Audi. But the one thing he does got going for him is that car is fantastic across the top of the hill. So as long as he can get a good run lap after lap, as you can see that he will slowly begin to gap Thomas McMillan just behind, as that Mercedes does not quite have the same amount of grip and aero that the Audi has across the top of the hill. But for Blakeneck, catching up to the cars in front might be the easiest challenge, but getting past will be the even harder one.
I think Neck gives himself, or puts himself in a good situation if he can just stick behind Winkleman and maintain that draft. Yeah, as you said, the pace across the top with these Audis will really, really help out this situation at the end of the race, because he'll probably not going to be able to save fuel in that car based on the way that the car handles in that straight line speed or down that Conrod Straight. But the fact that he can maintain the draft and use that draft down Conrod and up Mountain Straight, he's leaving himself in a good situation. You see, he's already broken away from McMillan. McMillan's struggling.
Yeah, McMillan not having the best of times at the moment. He was looking threatening behind Blakeneck at one point, but unfortunately now he's completely lost that gap. But that might just be McMillan falling behind a little bit, or it might be Blakeneck on a mission, as he's actually caught Anthony Winkleman quite rapidly now.
And at the same token, Winkleman has dropped from Anderson and probably out of draft range as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of this plays out, because McMillan now all of a sudden starting to close back up again.
Yep, back to the straight lines. This section, Bathurst is unique in that part where the last and first half of the lap is all straights, and that's going to benefit McMillan in the Mercedes. But this middle part of the track is all corners and high-speed parts where Blake will be strong. So might see a bit of a to and fro from this battle, where one car will close up in one section and the other in the next. But overall right now, it looks like Blakeneck does have the pace advantage over Winkleman.
Go to the battle, 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th. Strickland, Watson, Dance and Kozlowski. These guys were side by side through the chase, but they've now tucked back into line. And just behind as well is Ross Rizzo. So Rizzo not far off catching this train of cars, and he really needs to for this championship fight.
Yep, looks like his internet has settled down a bit as well, so for Ross Rizzo now, he can go on the maximum attack and try and close in on the cars in front of him. And I'm not sure if he would want to close in too quickly, because this looks like, English is hard, but it looks like this is quite an angry pack at the moment, as these guys are really trying to find any opportunity against one another, as they're looking up the inside at every opportunity. So this could be quite a feisty battle if Ross Rizzo does get involved and tries to make his way through it.
Just behind Rizzo and Silvassi as well, the battle 12th, 13th, 14th is getting quite juicy, with Corey Ott making 2 passes on this lap already. He's up into 12th from 14th at the start of this lap, with TJ Brown and Griffin Gardner in behind. Griffin, another one of the Audi drivers in this race, 3 inside the top 15 at the moment. The rest of the top 15 is Mercedes.
Yeah, which is quite surprising, because the Audi is actually very quick around here at Bathurst. And it does surprise me that there are so many Mercedes, but that could just be down to how drivable that car is. So a lot of guys going for that advantage, trying to go for a safe car but find the pace out of it, rather than go for a fast car that, well, let's just face it, might kill you at one point.
Driver that we've already seen absolute push the limit of the Audi on board here with Cameron Danson. Have a look at the pace advantage he's got with this draft down Conrod Straight. Not quite able to get a move done on Brad Watson ahead, but the straight line speed in draft actually doesn't look too bad from Cameron Dance.
No, it doesn't. As we can see, they're trying to go for an overlap there into the final corner. Backs out of it early, but Cameron Dance looking very threatening at the moment. Might have that Audi very trimmed out, so might be a little bit sketchy over the top of the hill, but with the setup that he is running at the moment, he very well might actually have a chance to challenge this Mercedes in a straight line. And if he is, this straight right here is one of the best chances for it, but he's just fallen a little bit too far back now.
And have a look at who's right behind Kozlowski now. Ross Rizzo gained 1.4 seconds on this pack last lap.
Yeah, that was a great lap from Rizzo. Just had a quick look, and that was faster than even the second place driver at the moment. So had it not been for internet issues at the start for Rizzo, this could have been a fantastic race, and it could have been the championship done, sealed, and delivered. No questions asked. But for him now, it's got to be done the hard way.
And from working out the sums in my head, if the finishing positions finish as they are now, I think that it will be very close to a tie, first and second in the championship with 1 round to go.
That doesn't sound too bad at all, does it?
It sounds good for us, but probably not for Rizzo with the 20-point lead at the moment. The way the championship is structured, it makes it very, very difficult to get those gaps back. You need to be consistently up the pointy end, which we've seen Rizzo do, and only getting the 1 win in the championship. Oh, I was just seeing a car in the wall. That was Cameron Dance. It's just slammed the wall at the exit of Forest Elbow, and this will help Kozlowski close up to the back. But just ahead, Brad Watson, Justin Strickland, side by side down Conrod Straight.
Here we go, equal cars, both Mercedes, no advantage here, but who's going to be braver as they turn in, getting so close contact made door to door. Are they both going to pull it up just about, but all over the curb, and that might actually open the door for Cam Dance, but he doesn't quite get a good enough run. So Justin Strickland very lucky to hold on to his place that he is now into, as Brad Watson managed to get past, but that was a very balls to the walls pass.
My apologies as well. Ross Rizzo has won 2 races in this championship. Winkleman has won 3, and Rizzo up the inside, move done. Sign sealed delivered on Scott Kozlowski. Up into 9th now, so that changes the complexion of the championship once again.
Yep, but it doesn't look like Scott Kozlowski is willing to let Rizzo have that too easily, as the All-Star Motorsports car now dives to the inside, just backs out of it, and doesn't fight Rizzo too hard, but he did look threatening for just a little bit. So for Rizzo, up 1 place. Next target is the now slightly wounded Audi R8 of Cam Dance. The good news for Cam on that little bit of damage that he does have, though, is that the rear wing is still relatively straight, and it is in one piece. So that's the main part where straight line is affected in these cars. And unfortunately for him, it's only a bit of front fender damage. That shouldn't hurt too much. And as you can see, they're still looking very pacey behind Justin Strickland at the moment. So Cam Dance, not what you want to be doing touching walls at Forest Elbow or anywhere here at Bathurst, but he might have just got away with that one.
Just going to go back to the battle 3rd and 4th, because it's well and truly on again. Blakeneck has dropped from Winkleman, and Thomas McMillan is close back up to the tail of that Audi once again.
Blakeneck actually, even despite McMillan being in the draft there, Blakeneck actually had a slightly higher top speed, so that's very surprising for an Audi versus a Mercedes. So I wonder if that is fuel saving from McMillan, and he's just content to follow Blakeneck for now, and with still probably another 15 or so minutes until we do see pit stops starting to take place. I think McMillan's playing a strategy game here.
I think so too. We just saw Cameron Dance up the inside of Justin Strickland, then had to get out of the throttle. And that enabled Ross Rizzo to get some overlap. He didn't get a great exit, and here comes Scott Kozlowski. Dance and Rizzo still side by side.
Oh, and Rizzo might lose out a little bit. The All-Star Motorsports car there looking very racy once again behind Rizzo, and Rizzo is not letting the inside go at all, and he is right behind Cam Dance as well, so almost boxed in. Cars moving left and right. That had the recipe for disaster there for Ross Rizzo, but he's hung out to dry on the exit, and the All-Star Motorsports car now is going to go side by side once again, and Cieslawski does back out of it, but Ross Rizzo right now, this is not what he needs to be doing right now. He has to be in a safe place and somewhere on track where he can just run his own laps. But right now, he's in the middle of a very fierce battle.
I'm just going to get a quick Cut Price Racing replay of an issue for Nino Natal at the chase. Not exactly sure what's happened, but we'll find out right now with this Cut Price Racing replay. We saw him, he was stopped at the exit of the chase, and he's just looped it all by himself. Unfortunate for Natal.
Oh, I just saw Thomas McMillan get into the wall at Forest Elbow just a little bit. And he has well and truly lost the slipstream of Blake Neck now. So McMillan, he's obviously very much used to the V8 supercar, but struggling for consistency in this GT3 at the moment.
He hit the wall pretty hard then too, didn't he? As we come back live, we'll go to the battle with Cameron Dance, Ross Rizzo, Scott Cieslawski. They've dropped from Strickland and pretty close to being out of draft range as well.
Yeah, Strickland's done a good job on this lap to just keep it clean and get some good apexes in, good throttle applications. And with Cam, Dance, Rizzo and Cieslawski all having that big fight through the final corner, Strickland did get a little bit of a gap done, but the cars behind are no slouches at all. So it might not even be a few more laps until we do see Dance, Rizzo and co. All beginning to close in on Strickland once more, but Strickland got himself a little bit of breathing room for a couple of laps at least.
Griffin Gardner, Corey Ott both into the pits, so the chance that these guys have a little bit of damage and are deciding to use the one available quick repair now, get their pit stop done, get themselves back out on track with a clean car, no traffic, which we've seen in other races in this series. If you've got a little bit of damage, pit early, you bring yourself back into the game. Not quite as easy as being at the front, but being out on track by yourself sometimes is a big advantage.
Yeah, it is, and this is one track where you definitely do want clean air, as being behind a car around here does cause so many issues across the top of the hill. So get yourself in clean air now, and you can actually put yourself in a fantastic position to undercut a lot of cars here.
Back on board with Blake Neck because he is back right behind the Mad Cow Racing entry of Anthony Winkleman. It's very, very close once more.
Bit of traffic for these guys to contend with as well. One of the Ferraris there in position 28 there. So that's one of the cars that did just take their pit stop. But right now, like you said, Blake Neck doing a great job to hold onto the back of Winkleman just a little bit. And definitely not let him go away. So we'll see if Blake Neck starts playing the strategy card just a little bit, but from what I'm seeing from the speed trace, he hasn't started lifting and coasting at all just yet.
Now Ross Rizzo's got ahead of Cameron Dance with some internet issues again as well, so hopefully they won't cause any dramas for him in this race. And looks as if we've heard in the past, and into the lane comes Rizzo. I've heard in the past that having internet issues can sometimes, when you have those strange glitches, you actually lose grip. And we've heard in the past Madison Down, who used to have a lot of internet issues, used to say how tough it was to drive when you're blinking like that because your car would suddenly lose grip. So very, very tough conditions for Rizzo as he's in to make his pit lane service. And Cieslawski and Dance still going at it.
Yeah, they are. They're having a great battle at the moment. And Cieslawski really closing in on the back of Dance at the moment. And Dance just missing the apex a little bit. So there's more food for thought for Scott Cieslawski, perhaps knowing that that might be a weak spot for Camp Dance in that Audi. A very cambered corner, very high speed. And maybe the Mercedes just working a bit better through there. And that might be an overtaking opportunity for him a bit later on in this stint. So right now, these two still locked together very closely. But you can see here the pace of the Audi across the top of the hill pulls away from Strickland, pulls away from Cieslawski and starts closing in on Strickland.
And Cieslawski might have just gave the wall a little bit of a touch at metal grade as well. So don't be surprised to see a little bit of damage to the rear of that car, and you can see right at the rear right-hand wheel a little bit of damage. So I think he did clout the wall, and Dance looks so much better coming up into Forest Elbow, and look at how close he is now.
Yep, normally I would say the Mercedes has the straight line speed advantage, but in that slipstream and how close Dance is, bump drafting now in these GT3s, they're going to take it side by side, down Conrad straight, Cam Dance doing the Van Gisbergen almost in the grass to cool his tyres. It is advantage Dance on the inside, but that's going to be Strickland holding strong on the outside. It's going to be a battle of who's better on the brakes. Strickland up the inside, all of the curb used, but Cam Dance does get the position done around the outside. That's a fantastic move, and it's not over for Strickland just yet. Almost Kozlowski getting into the side of him, and Kozlowski wasn't happy about that squeeze, flashes the lights, and we all know that's an instant pass as Strickland there misses the apex just a little bit, and here comes Kozlowski going for a dive in turn number 1.
Yep, and this is not going to be over because they will have a bit of a drag race down. Oh, well done around the outside, Strickland, and he's managed to get a very good exit over Kozlowski. Now, Ross Rizzo has been in and served a stop-and-go penalty. So I'm thinking an iRacing induced black flag for Rizzo because he's back out there still with damage, back in 17th position.
Yeah, that's a nightmare for Rizzo. So we'll have to wait and see whether that was just an iRacing penalty or not for Rizzo. But this championship is just beginning to slip away from him a little bit. We've seen all season Mr. Consistency, big points after big points, and the internet issues for him are back as well. And I've just went to look at him, and he's disappeared for a good 5 seconds there for Rizzo. We won't watch this on screen too much because it might be a bit concerning to watch for Rizzo and all his fans hoping to get this championship wrapped up tonight. But this might be going to the final round, and it might be advantage Winkleman.
Would be the big advantage in Rizzo's favour is he's still going, still in point scoring positions, and has a 20-point lead coming into this race. The other advantage too is that Anderson is leading this race. Winkleman is not in the lead, and Anderson has 5 seconds over Winkleman at the moment.
Yeah, Anderson is absolutely bolted at the moment. Anderson, we all know his talent, we all know how quick he is, and with Positive Sim Racing backing behind him as well, a fantastic up-and-coming team in the Blancpain GT ranks as well. No surprise to see him so quick.
Kozlowski, and he's taken out Cameron Dance! He got bumped on the curb at the kink at the chase, and then 2 wheels in the dirt, unable to control it. And that's a big hit. That'd be scary for Dance as well, because he would not have seen that coming. And Cameron Dance looks like he's done as well. These guys will come straight into the pits to get this quick repair used. We'll get a Cup Price Racing replay because that was massive.
And Cam Dance has just spun it in a straight once again, so that LDR rate, he wants a fast repair, but this is proving to be one of the biggest challenges. He's had a huge crash, taking one of the Ferraris out as well. Trying to get who that was. That was Simon Mazzomo. Launched into the air. That was a monster wreck.
Try and pick up another Cup Price Racing replay. So here's Mazzomo, and I don't think, wow, that was a massive, massive hit. And Cameron Dance will not be overly happy with how that one played out because that car was incredibly tough to control. I don't think there was... Oh, that was a big hit. I don't know what else he could have done. I mean, he did back across the track, but I don't know what else he could have done other than get it straight again. But that's done for those guys dancing in the pits. It looks like his race done, unfortunately, as we go back to second and third place. Unfortunate for Simon Mazzomo there too, because he was just plodding along nice and clean in a battle all by himself, and he's ended up getting a big heart attack from massive contact. He's managed to use his quick repair and got back out on track, currently in 26th position.
Yeah, it's a shame for him, but for our race leaders now at the moment, still all staying out, so the top 3 have not blinked, and make that the top 4 and 5 now, so all our front runners still staying out on track, and making sure they stay out of trouble. Race leader Josh Anderson does have Cam Dance just in front of him, who has resumed racing once again, so good to see we still have an Audi out on the field apart from Blake Neck, who is still plodding around in 3rd place. But that's unfortunate for those guys. But our leaders still, strategy still ought to be played for.
Let's go to a battle now, 11th and 12th on track. Aaron Farmer, Philip Stoneman, these two have raced against each other quite a lot. Nah, very, very close at the moment.
So both in equal cars as well. So we'll keep an eye on this battle and see what unfolds. These guys just fighting outside the top 10. So it could be a good result for these guys if they do keep it clean through the finish. And they still have 20 minutes of Mount Panorama to face. So they've not only got to battle themselves, but also battle the elements around them. But right now, these guys look to be having a lot of fun fighting over this 11th place.
Now with Strickland coming into the pits, it's now for 10th. So they've worked their way up a spot with Strickland coming in and taking his service. 11-second stop. We're seeing most of the cars take between 11 and 15 seconds of fuel, depending on how they've gone with fuel saving and the like.
This is one of the brilliant things about this series is we don't know what strategies guys are necessarily running, and it's always up to play for until the very final few laps. And we have seen even a few attempts at final lap passes in this series. So Josh Anderson at the moment out in front all by himself, and definitely pushing on. So he'll be using a lot of fuel. So he might be one of the first ones to blink, as he is beginning to suffer with a little bit of traffic just in front. But right now the top three all stay out. So none of them are blinking too early, and they're all just trying to see what the other one's doing and getting a feel for what the other guy is going to do.
Now, I've got a feeling that Blake Neck will jump Winkleman in the stop, because although we've said that the throttle trace sort of shows from listening on board that he isn't saving fuel, just being in behind, and even if you're lifting off from 100% throttle to 80% throttle, that's saving a tiny little bit every lap, which Blake is probably close enough to be able to do.
But with the pace of that Audi across the top of the mountain, Blake Neck might even be able to get a move done on track. And then when he does come into the pits with that potentially lighter amount of fuel that he does need, he could have a very big advantage over Winkleman indeed. So it'll be interesting to see what Neck does if he does play it all the way through and does it all in the pits. But if he can do something on track before the pit stops as well, that'll give him an even greater advantage.
One thing I'm just noticing then from an onboard too is Winkleman's short shifting a little bit to try and save a bit of fuel. So Winkleman's thinking about fuel as well, and he'll probably know that Rizzo's had a few issues. I'm sure his team will be communicating that with him. So he'll be trying to think of ways that he can get back up to the back of Anderson, and saving a little bit of fuel from second position is one of those things he can do to gain some time. But won't be easy, because he has to defend quite aggressively from Blake Neck and doesn't want to give up a spot either.
No, not at all. For Winkleman right now, track position will be key for his strategy if he's going to have any shot at Anderson. And he's going to have quite a fair bit left in store after this pit stop to get to Anderson, who currently has over a 6-second lead, as Anderson is absolutely flying at the moment. But for Anthony Winkleman, saving a bit of fuel is something he can do, just to get that little bit of an advantage over Anderson. But he's still got to do something special on track. But right now, it's Blake Neck that's doing all the attacking. Thomas McMillan, though, is our first guy in the top 4 to blink into the pits. So we did see him doing a bit of fuel saving earlier in the stint when he was a bit closer to Blake Neck. So we'll keep an eye on his pit stop delta time, and we can use that just to see what might be happening between Blake Neck and Anthony Winkleman, as those guys continue to scrap it out for second place at the moment. So
also just seeing issues for Martin Silvassi from, I think it was in 10th position before the big accident, but he's just dropped from the server as well. So Silvassi's another one having internet issues tonight. Sorry there, Bo.
No, not at all. So that's a disaster there for one of the Mad Cow Racing cars. And that's a shame for Silvassi, as he was doing a very strong job once again in this field. And that's a shame for him. But fortunately, he does have his teammates still to cheer on, who's running in second. But for Silvassi, I believe that might be his first run in Mad Cow colours in this series, but that's a shame regardless.
Great to see how close Winkleman and Neck are going down the mountain as well. This guy's very, very close. And they're not far away from making their fuel stop. I'm going to say they'll be in 2 more laps. Pure guesswork. We'll see if we're right.
Well, you never know. Of course, McMillan, who was running in 4th at the time, did take his pit stop, so that might be a bit of an indicator that the Mercedes are beginning to run low on fuel. Only 15 minutes left in this race to go, so it's very possible that we will see them in very, very soon.
Anderson stays out from the lead. He's now got a gap out to nearly 7 seconds over Winkleman, who stays out as well as Neck. So fairly short stop from McMillan too. As we said, he was fuel saving, only 10.5 second stop. That could help promote him a couple of spots to get out of that messy traffic, get some clear air. He's got no one around him at the moment. He could find himself moving up a couple of spots and maybe in contention for a podium.
Yeah, absolutely. We did see earlier in the race, he did have some good pace. He had a couple of rough laps as well, but when he did keep it all together, he was very quick and was challenging the likes of Neck and Winkleman very much. So if McMillan can get some good laps now, he is in a little bit of clean air as well. This could be a good opportunity for the All-Star Motorsports car.
Got Brad Watson in the pits from 5th position as well, so he's got himself in to get out of a bit of traffic that a few of the cars are starting to have now, with some lap cars starting to play a bit more of an impact on this race. But on screen, Aaron Farmer, Philip Stoneman, they're still going at it, and Stoneman looks like he's got pace to go around, but either doesn't want to based on fuel saving, or doesn't feel confident enough to get the move finally done. But the pace that he's got, he looks like he's the quicker of these 2 cars.
Yeah, he does. He's looking really aggressive at the moment behind the 21 car of Aaron Farmer. And definitely going up the hill there into turn number 2. He was not fuel saving, but like you were saying before with Neck and Winkleman, sorry, even just being behind the car in front, you know, doing regular laps will save you a little bit of fuel. So as he gets very close to the wall there, up to the top of the hill, he still might be able to get past Farmer in the pits, but with the pace he's shown, it is a bit of a surprise we haven't seen him get past on track.
Saying that this lap that we've now focused a little bit more on, he's dropped off a little, but still got very good pace. And Farmer also a little bit of damage to the rear wing of his car. And saying that, it's just fixed itself, so it must have been a bit of an optical illusion.
Gotta love iRacing. The top 2nd and 3rd place, Winkleman and Neck were just playing a little bit of games with each other. Both just sort of did a little bit of a fake to the pit lane, and both backed out a little bit as well. So those two are playing mental games with each other. This isn't just a race on fuel anymore, a race on pace. These guys are having a bit of a mental fight against one another now.
Mark Rayner from 4th into the pits. McMillan will jump on past, I'm fairly sure, of Rayner from this stop, but a battle that's started after the pit stops have occurred is Scott Kozlowski versus Corey Ott. They're very close, and Kozlowski we saw obviously involved in that big crash. He's managed to get back out there, and now side by side. Here, not going, oh, contact, not again at the chase. Sure, Kozlowski's had another heart attack and somehow pulls it up. Corey Ott stays in 13th. Wow,
Kozlowski flashbacks to just a couple laps ago with Cam Dance. That must have been a heart stopper for him, but fortunately this one goes a little bit better, and rather ironically he almost got the overtake done whilst completely out of control on Corey Ott.
Find it ironic that these two are both battling together, because these are the two drivers that really love to send it and use that quote, or these two teams I should say, Kozlowski and Ott, both wanting to get moves done. And Kozlowski goes through this time, almost contact. Bump drafting.
These guys aren't playing too nice with one another, but big news at the front of the race is our race leader Josh Anderson will dive into the pits, and he's not alone. Oh, well, let's just say the entire trio is coming in. Yep. It's pit stop time, boys.
Yep, Winkleman, Neck in as well, so we'll see if Neck can have a shorter stop. I've got a feeling that he'll be about 1 second quicker than Winkleman and will be able to jump. Anderson will want to make sure that he has absolutely nailed that pit entry because he will not want to get a penalty for speeding in pit lane or anything like that, because that will hurt his race. Away he goes, 8.4 second stop. That's very quick from Anderson. Winkleman away and Neck away. So almost identical laps, pit stop times for our top three. And McMillan has dropped a fair bit of time from these guys. A 1.5 second slower stop, McMillan to Winkleman, but net gain on track is around about 8 or 9 seconds that McMillan has lost.
Yeah, that's not good for McMillan, and maybe just losing the drive to those guys at the start of the race. He has struggled just to find his rhythm a little bit and has just fallen back a little bit, which is a shame for him. But one thing I do find interesting is, even though they were relatively close, I think Winkleman has just ever so slightly gapped Neck.
Yeah, about 4 tenths quicker at the stop, 9.1 versus 9.5, and the live gap showing about 1.4 seconds. So Winkleman possibly a little bit of an advantage from that stop. Doesn't take much around this circuit to gain some time, but at this point of the track here is where Neck can close up. We'll see if he does.
Blake Neck was doing his best just to save a little bit of fuel before the stops, but of course in the back of that Audi is a huge V10 engine which revs so high and is very aggressive compared to that Mercedes in front, which is just a naturally aspirated V8, and it's quite low revving as well. So the Mercedes does naturally save fuel a little bit better, and that might have just been what saved Winkleman in that battle there. So we'll see what Blake Neck can do, and if he can punch out some really good lap times, and if he can begin to close in on the back of Winkleman now. And between Winkleman and Anderson, the gap has very slightly come down, now looking at about 5.5 seconds. But Josh Anderson out in front, still looking so comfortable, so dominant. And with 8 minutes to go, I can't see anything going too wrong for him. Touch wood, I haven't just put the commentator's curse on him. But right now, all things look good for the top three. Thomas McMillan in fourth currently, still doing a good job. But just behind him is Mark Rayner, who's doing a very good job at the moment. And just slightly matching McMillan 4 lap times as well. So if Rayner can do a few good more lap times, and we have seen McMillan be a little bit inconsistent over the times, we could see a battle as well for fourth. But for that battle that was taking place just a bit earlier, Philip Stoneman has now dived into the pits and he's going to rejoin. And looks like it may be advantage to him. He might have got ahead of the car he was battling just a little bit before, which was Aaron Farmer. And actually Aaron Farmer with a lot of damage on his Mercedes. Aaron Farmer has ran into trouble somewhere, and he's actually missed the pit entry too.
It's at the chase. He and Corey Ott have had a big accident. So on screen now, Corey Ott and Aaron Farmer. We'll see if we can pick up what's happened, but I think it's door-to-door contact in the braking zone at the chase.
Oh, just after the chase,
Just after, yeah. Oh, big crash. Bit of a wiggle from Ott. Wow.
That was none of Aaron Farmer's fault, and unfortunately, I think he might have got the absolute worst out of that. So that's a shame for both of those guys. Actually, Corey Ott now in the pits and still in the pits, as we've got a car doing a burnout in the pits, which is Aaron Farmer. Actually, that might have been the engine expiring on that Mercedes, so hopefully we can get the fire crew out to put that out, but that's a nightmare for those guys to end the race like that.
Yeah, very disappointing end to the races. We just get another onboard replay with Corey Ott. You see, tried to hold it around the outside in the first part of the chase. Did a very good job. Just left enough room, and then big wiggle around the off-camber second last corner. And it's a very underrated corner, that one. I find a lot of drivers struggle with that a lot more than you expect, because when you look at it on paper and you look at it just from a quick glance, it's a really easy corner, but when you're out there on track, it is very tough.
Yeah, it is, and you know, even though these cars have traction control, sometimes they cop a bit of grief saying, oh, these are very easy to cars to drive and whatnot. No, these things can bite, and, you know, that is a corner that if you do, you know, just try to forget about it, plant the foot too early, it can still bite you regardless of what car you're driving, no matter what assist you're using. That is a corner that can bite, and like you said, very underrated.
Scott Kozlowski, Philip Stoneman, TJ Brown on screen at the moment. And this is a very messy pack of cars. They're going to go 3 wide up over the crest at Mountain Straight here. Stoneman's got out of the throttle. TJ Brown, Scott Kozlowski side by side. And Kozlowski goes through, gets 2 in the length of Mountain Straight.
Fantastic move there from Kozlowski.
Brown and Stoneman still side by side. Brown ends up slotting ahead. But this one isn't over.
No, not at all. This is a fantastic little group of cars. And Kozlowski just doing his best to run away from the cars behind. And I don't blame him, as those guys are looking very threatening to continue this battle. And that's going to be an interesting one to watch, as TJ Brown in the Chop Chop cars is fighting with Philip Stoneman just behind. So this could be a good fight. We'll see if that does continue in the next few laps, as we're just looking down to 3.5 laps to go. So if those guys are going to make a move, they've got to do it soon.
So Anderson back to Winkleman has dropped now. It's down to 4.5 seconds. I don't think there's enough time left, but Winkleman has pretty good pace in this second half of the race at the moment.
Yeah, Winkleman with half a second on that last lap, so that was a great lap from him. But we do know how dangerous Mount Panorama is, and the walls are so close, and I'm just wondering if that might be Anderson just playing a little bit safe, and just making sure he does bring this race win home. So we'll see if that is the case, but if Winkleman does take a bit more time out on this lap, that might just worry Anderson a little bit. He might try to speed up, and because he's got out of that rhythm, he has slowed down a little bit. That might open the door for a last lap mistake.
Yeah, we've seen in the past Anderson does have very, very good pace, but quite often we have seen him make little strange mistakes the closing portion of races. So we'll see if that potentially will happen again as we go back to Stoneman versus Brown, because that is very, very close as they head back up Mountain Straight. We've got 3 minutes to go in this race. And the other thing to notice too, I was just going to mention as well, Ross Rizzo has worked his way up into 6th, but I feel, Strickland and Silvassi.
Oh no! So what has happened here?
Yeah, let's try and decipher what's happened in this one. Silvassi has ended up back in the pits, out of the race. But Strickland was in 6th position, or 7th position. Oh, big hit between the two. Silvassi's race is done. He's got too much damage when he hit that wall. And Strickland will have to struggle across the top of the mountain and bring it back to the pits, because that is fairly heavily damaged. Unfortunate for Strickland.
Yeah, that was an unnecessary incident, unfortunately. Silvassi, a good friend of mine and of course an ex-teammate, but unfortunately that one does have to go on him. His lap's down, he did have that disconnect earlier in the race. You can't be fighting the 6th place car in the final few laps of the race, and unfortunately that has cost Justin Strickland quite badly.
So we've got under 2 minutes left on the clock. I'm fairly sure there'll be 2 laps left in this race. Yeah, the lap counter's decided to go haywire. It's saying minus 2 laps to go. There's 2 laps to go. Philip Stoneman and TJ Brown have just had a little bit of contact through the chase. They're still side by side. Oh, big bump again. Oh, around goes Brown.
Oh no.
Wow.
And we have to be careful with how he rejoins. This is a blind crest, and we have seen incidents before. And as you can see there, those cars, they're only just finding out now when where TJ Brown was. So unfortunately, he does get the car turned around, and he will continue on his way. But another incident, Jay.
Another big incident too. We've seen some big ones today. We've seen the mountain absolutely bite hard today. And probably another incident that was unnecessary as well. Unfortunate end to that battle, because that was a very good battle that we were seeing between Stoneman and Brown.
Yeah, it was, and you know, those guys aren't often guys that are fighting up the top end, but doesn't mean they're not fighting any harder, and those guys were on for actually a very good result as well, both fighting very close to the top 10, which would have been fantastic for those guys. So that's a shame for those guys, but fortunately they will have one more round to redeem themselves in next week on Wednesday. But for now, Josh Anderson about to take the final corner to take it for one more lap to go around Mount Panorama. So any battles that are happening on track, they are going to get one more lap around the mountain to be fought out on.
Yep, this is the last lap of the race. White flag now officially out. And the gap first to second is now down to 2.9 seconds. I feel if there was another 2 laps in this race, we would have seen a real battle for first and second. It's got really close.
Yeah, if Anderson has indeed backed down and just playing it safe, he might be playing it a little bit too safe. As on that last lap, there was a big swing in the way of Anthony Winkelman of 1.2 seconds. And if that happens again on this lap, then, well, when Anderson does in fact cross the line, Winkelman will be well and truly in the rear mirror of the positive sim racing driver. So Anderson might want to just pick it up just a little bit, just to make sure he does in fact secure this win, because he has had a fantastic drive from pole position today. And the entire top 3 have done a fantastic job all race long to keep these cars going and make no mistakes at all. But this has been a fantastic fight sometimes in these final few laps, just to get those times and see if you can close in on the car in front of you just a little bit.
One thing I'm wondering with Anderson is he struggling on fuel? Because he did have a very short pit stop. Has he underfilled this car and backing out of it to make sure he's got enough fuel to bring it home? And he's just looped it! He's looped it at first elbow and hit the wall! And he's out of fuel, I think. He's out of fuel. He's out of fuel. That's why he was out of it. That's why he was slow. He's run out of fuel on the final lap at Forest Elbow and then hit the wall, and he's well and truly hit the wall now. He is out of the race from the race lead on the last lap. Winkelman now leads. Blakeneck in second. Ross Rizzo is now into 5th. This championship is on.
This is brilliant. It is all going to come down to the final round at Suzuka. Japan awaits in 1 week's time, and Anthony Winkelman is going to set himself up in the most perfect way possible. He takes victory here on the final lap here at Mount Panorama ahead of Blakeneck. After issues for Josh Anderson, Thomas McMillan is going to only just hold off Mark Rayner for position number 3. That's fantastic for him. And Ross Rizzo, this race could have been something brilliant for him. This could have been the championship, but Suzuka awaits.
Somehow, he's ended up with a top 5 out of all of the issues he's had in this one. So well done to Rizzo for coming home in 5th. That's probably the best that you could have hoped for after lap 1 and lap 2. So well done to Rizzo for coming home in 5th. And Winkelman has ended up winning the race. And amazingly, I sort of thought with him as he was coming up Mountain Straight that maybe fuel might be the reason. And we were right. I was right. I was amazed. I'm speechless.
Yeah, that was an unbelievable finish to the race, and absolute disaster there for Anderson, who we did comment had quite a quick pit stop as well. So actually no, Winkelman behind was actually a little bit longer in the pit stop. So that's a weird one for Josh Anderson. A complete muck-up of strategy there, and even if it wasn't for the spin, he was never going to make that home to the finish. So Anthony Winkelman celebrating, doing donuts all he likes. What an upset.
What a race that was, and this series has proven once again that it is so unpredictable and anyone can win a race regardless of where you are. And Anthony Winkelman has just proved that anything can and will happen in this series with a win in the end over Blakeneck. Thomas McMillan ends up holding on for 3rd. Good job from the All-Star Motorsport driver to get a podium in the end. Mark Rayner in 4th position. Good job from him. Ross Rizzo somehow salvages a 5th position. Dan King finishes in 6th with Brad Watson 7th. Scott Kozlowski in 8th. Philip Stoneman 9th. And Justin Strickland rounding out the top 10.
Yep, and I'll only have 4 cars to really read out that do finish on the first lap as Philip Morden takes home P11 from TJ Brown, Brant Tucker, and Mark Simon. And then we have a huge list of casualties or guys that were a lap down, including Josh Anderson, Mitchell Bayless, Jeffrey Price, Edward Morgan, David Coleman, and Jeremy Franklin rounding out the top 20.
Yeah, then the rest of the casualties: Martin Silvassi, Jordan McDonnell, Corey Ott, Aaron Farmer, Griffin Gardner, Robert Northway, Cameron Dance, Steve Carmichael, Simon Mazzomo, Tom Kleeman, and then we have Nina Nuttall, Sean Thompson, Phil Gadd, JP Courier, Matt Morris, Dylan Shepherd, and David Jellings. Drivers that started this race, most of those second half of that field didn't finish in the end, which is absolutely amazing. The attrition rate this circuit has been fairly low. Bathurst has definitely bitten hard tonight.
Yeah, it really has. And if you think about it, over half of the field over a lap down, and most of those involved in quite large accidents. So Bathurst has well and truly bitten tonight in the Oceanic Sprint Championship. And, well, all I can really say is next week at Suzuka, you don't want to miss it.
Yeah, cannot wait for Suzuka next week in this series. It's going to be an absolutely fantastic race. The next broadcast, we've got a few days off. Thankfully, I can have a little bit of a break. Next Monday night, second to last round of the iRacing official V8 Supercar Series. And I'll tell you what, we were talking on Monday night how close the championship was. It's down to 20 points separating Marlon McMullen and Dane Warren in the official iRacing V8 Supercar Championship. So the next two Monday nights are going to be very, very crucial to who wins that championship. As we said, next Wednesday night, make sure you tune in, 8:45 Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. The Oceanic Sprint Championship is going down to the wire between Rizzo and Winkleman. It will be on.
It certainly will be. We have a fantastic couple of championships about to be decided. And if there's any time you need to be watching these broadcasts, it is now. It is all coming down to the wire in 3 major series as well, if you include V8 Scop. So right now, this is a fantastic time for Australian sim racing. And I think that we have a lot to look forward to.
Yep, heaps of exciting things and heaps of exciting announcements to come over the next few weeks too. So make sure you head over and follow all of our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and obviously YouTube as well. V8's Online, we are on all of those. But both, thank you very much for jumping in the booth tonight here for the Oceanic Sprint Championship.
Yep, not at all. Always a pleasure to commentate on this championship. And I think next weekend is going to be an absolute cracker. I can't wait for it.
Yeah, cannot wait for next week. Thank you for tuning in. We are V8's Online. We will be back next Monday night for the iRacing official V8 Supercar Series and Wednesday night for the Oceanic Sprint Championship. Until then, thank you for watching. Bye for now.